I remember the day I picked up Mr. Frank from the federal prison. Yeah, I said federal prison. I told you I've worked with all type of patients in my career. Years ago, I worked for nursing homes, and federal prisons, in case you don't know, a lot of them have a unit that as patients age and they can no longer be in general population, they go into this unit where the inmates are the caregivers for these inmates until they can no longer care for them, and then they need outside care. Now, when they go into outside care, their mobility is extremely limited or gone at that point, just so you know. And every facility doesn't accept these type of patients. This was a special program that I created with a social worker that worked in a federal prison. Anyway, I remember the day that I went up and assessed him, and it wasn't a violent criminal. Okay, we're not going to go into what he did, but I remember when we loaded him in the van in his wheelchair, and on the ride to the facility, I asked him, I said, you want to get something to eat? And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, anything you want, just, you know what, I'll pick it, because he had been gone for a very long time. Found out what he liked. We got him something to eat. And I remember watching the food just sit in his lap. He didn't touch it. When we got to the facility, and I showed him to his room and helped him put his things away. And one of my nurses told me later that he wasn't coming out of the room. They couldn't get him to come out of the room. He was just sitting in his chair next to his bed. And so I went down to talk to him, and I asked him, I said, what's wrong? You know, why? You want me to go get you something? Do you feel okay? Like, what do we need to do? And he just shook his head. He never did come out of that room. And he was with me for a few months before he passed. But what he taught me was that he had gotten so comfortable, incapacitated for so many years, he couldn't get out. Even though he was physically out, mentally he could not get out. And that is the case with so many people. You get incarcerated in situations and you become so comfortable and complacent, or you're like, there's no way out, that you just never come out. And I've never been to prison other than to visit and minister. But I don't believe anyone goes into prison being comfortable. That's uncomfortable to begin with. So become comfortable in an extremely uncomfortable situation, and then someone pulling you out. You got to choose which direction you're going. Happy Easter, folks.